I'm sure that many of you got your views from many different sources. Yeah, maybe some of you did some research in the internet, some of you read Dhamma books, some of you consulted teachers, or you just have your own opinions of what Citta or Mano is. There's a lot of literature available for free distribution. Many of them come from the Thai forest tradition, and they speak from their own personal experience rather than from scriptural knowledge and understanding. So sometimes, although their experiences might be accurate, but the words they use may be confusing. So what we are trying to do here is to let you see what the suttas actually say, and to decide whether the words that they use, the same words that they use, refer to the same thing or something else. Generally, people understand citta to mean the emotional part of the mind, and mano is more of the intellectual. There seems to be a very general idea of that. Let's look at the appendix first before I give you the answer. The appendix says that the mind is luminous, but it is corrupted by incoming corruptions. This is only found in the Anguttara Nikaya, Book of Wands. Although this seems to be very insignificant in Theravada Buddhism, it has become a very big and very prominent teachings in Tibetan and Mahayana Buddhism, where they talk about the original mind, the Buddha nature, and they say that everyone is basically already enlightened, and you just have to realize it yourself. That is not a Theravada point of view. That is Tibetan and Mahayana. But it seems to have its roots here because the Buddha says that the mind is luminous and it is defiled by incoming defilements, which means that defilements are not part of the mind. Yeah, it seems to suggest that defilements are not part of the mind. And because it is corrupted by these corruptions, the mind is not radiant. Although it could be radiant, but because of these corruptions, it is not radiant, not luminous, and therefore is not rightly composed or concentrated for the destruction of the taints, for one to become an arahant. These 5 corruptions of the mind were not detailed in the extract that I gave you, but if you look at the sutta itself, you will see that these 5 corruptions refer to the 5 hindrances that are encountered during meditation. So, like I said, the third extract about the sun and the moon seems to suggest that the mind was originally pure. The citta was originally luminous, but it is clouded by these incoming corruptions. In the Theravada tradition, this seems to be quite an innocent statement and is not really made much of. But this has become something very important for the non-Theravadian traditions. This is not so from the Theravadian point of view. If you look at the first extract, the first appendix, it says, luminous monks is this citta, and it is corrupted by incoming corruptions. That an uninformed worldling knows not according to what has occurred. Therefore, I say, there is no development of the citta for the uninformed worldling. So what this seems to imply is that, first of all, you have to experience the luminosity of the mind. In order to experience the luminosity of the mind, you have to get rid of the 5 hindrances. So when the 5 hindrances are abandoned temporarily, the mind becomes radiant. Alright? And the Buddha says that only then can there be development of the citta. Which means to say, if you want to develop the citta, you have to start by realizing its luminosity, which comes after you have abandoned the 5 hindrances. So this is only the first step, because the Buddha says there can be no development of the citta if this does not happen. Correct or not? So you start to develop the citta only when it has become luminous, when it has been cleared of the incoming corruptions. So it's only the beginning of development. It doesn't mean that you are already enlightened. From there, then you develop the citta and eventually you can get awakened. This is quite different from the non-Theravadian views. But what actually is citta and how is it related to Mano? As I said earlier, I've not really given you enough data for you to come to a reasonable conclusion. It's not something very easy, and I've based my answer on this paper that was written by one Swedish professor way back in the 1960s. It's called Citta, Mano, Viññāṇa, a Psychosemantic investigation. You can actually get this for free in the internet if you just Google this. This professor did this research way back in the 60s. And there was a time when the Tipitaka and its commentaries were not yet digitalized. It is really to be commended, because you have to be a real scholar during those times to be able to read through all the hard copies of the Tipitaka and then note down every occurrence of Citta, Mano and Viññāṇa. Note down using handwriting, or using a typewriter. You don't have personal computers during those times. So he made a very thorough research, and I think that until this day, it seems to be the most comprehensive research that I have come across, that I am aware of. Now, Citta, Mano and Viññāṇa are three Pali terms that are used to refer to the mind. Citta and Mano are translated as mind, usually translated as mind, although Ajahn Thanisaro translates Mano as the intellect and the Citta as mind or heart. And then Viññāṇa is quite universally translated as consciousness. In his paper, he used a lot of psychological terms to express his findings, and I think that is not very reader-friendly to lay people like us. So what I've done is I've gone through his paper and sort of distilled it to get the major points, then put the features in more layman language, easier for us to understand, instead of using psychological terms. So here you can see I have these few columns. The first column is about the different features, and then the second, third and fourth column are to compare among Citta, Mano and Viññāṇa. There are altogether quite a number of items. First one is developed. You see very strangely that you can develop the Citta and the Mano, but not the Viññāṇa. That's how it is used in the Pali canon. And the Citta and the Mano can be defiled, but not Viññāṇa. Thirdly, both the Citta and Mano can be purified, but not the Viññāṇa. Because vijnana doesn't need to be purified, right? It's not defiled in the first place. Where is there any need to purify it? You only purify something which is dirty or defiled. And because the Citta and the Mano can be defiled, therefore they can be purified. And therefore they need to be developed, but not the Viññāṇa. And talking about restraint, same too. You restrain the Citta and the Mano. However, very strangely, only the Citta can be liberated. In the suttas, we never talk about liberating the Mano, we only talk about liberating the Citta. But all three of them are sankharas. They are conditioned phenomena. They are the products of causes and condition. And because they are constructions, phenomena that arise due to cause and condition, they therefore exhibit the three characteristics of anicca, dukkha and anatta: impermanence, suffering and not self. But only Viññāṇa is classified as one of the five aggregates, not Citta or Mano. And only Mano is a sense organ, but not Citta or Viññāṇa. Mano is equivalent to the eye, right? The eye is an organ for the sense of seeing, and Mano is the organ for the sense of cognizance. So you will see the sense organs, the five sense organs are all physical in nature. But the sense organ for the sixth sense is not physical. This is Mano. And when talking about thinking, both Citta and Mano can think, not just Mano. Although popularly people say that Mano is the intellect and the Citta is the emotional part of the mind. But actually both can think. And we talk about personality. Just now somebody talked about personality. But I'm using the word personality here a bit differently from what she said. I'm using the word personality here to mean that the Citta is often personified by the Buddha in the suttas. What do I mean by personification? I'm sure that many of us have got the good and the bad sides of us. Sometimes, you get up early in the morning on Sunday, and then Sunday you're free, you don't have to go to work. And there's this part of the mind that says, today is Sunday, no work. So get up early and meditate. Then the other part of the mind will say, today's Sunday, holiday, sleep longer, never mind, enjoy yourself. Okay, so which one is you? Are you the good guy or the bad guy? Are you the one that says you want to meditate, or the one that says go and sleep lah? You see, the thing is, usually the bad guy is personified. That is the citta. And you see in the suttas, sometimes a bhikkhu, a monk, talking to himself, telling himself, "Citta, you have been leading me by the nose for aeons. Now I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to meditate and be free, be liberated." Right? So it seems that citta is usually personified as the bad guy. So Aggacitta means the peak bad guy. But it's not personified for Mano or Viññāṇa, only for Citta. That's the way it is used in the suttas. Now, sentience here means the ability or having the faculty of consciousness, awareness, cognizance. And all of these, Citta, Mano, and Viññāṇa, they have this ability to cognize, to know, to be aware, to be conscious. Then, talking about the coordinator of the five senses, somebody mentioned about it. We have these 6 senses. The 5 senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling with the body, are actually very selfish in nature, because each of these 5 senses is only concerned with its own object. It's its own respective object. The eye only can see colors. The eyes don't care what the ears hear, or what the nose smells, or what the body feels, correct? Because it can only be aware of, be conscious of colors. That's all. That's its job. So if each of these 5 senses were to do their own thing, how is an organism going to survive? Impossible for the organisms to survive, right? So that's why we have this Mano. Mano is a 6th sense organ that is able to coordinate all these 5 senses so that the organism can function effectively and survive. So when you are doing open awareness, you are trying to be aware of what's happening in the senses. That is the Mano that is working. Aware of hearing, aware of seeing, aware of tasting and sensations and so forth. The consciousness of pain comes from the body. It's the body consciousness. But the mind is aware of the pain. You get what I mean? The eye sees, but the mind is aware of the seeing. So, because the mind is able to perceive all the objects of the other senses, then it is a coordinator. It can coordinate everything and make the organism function and survive. This can be found only in 1 or 2 suttas. One obvious one is the Uṇṇābhabrahmaṇa Sutta in the Samyutta Nikaya, where this Brahmin, Uṇṇābha, approached the Buddha and said, "Master Gautama, these 5 sense faculties that we have, each of them have their own domain. And each of them can only know its own object. Who is their refuge? Who is it that is able to take all their objects?" He was a Brahmin, so I guess he expected the Buddha to say it's the Atman. Yeah, but instead of saying that, the Buddha said, Mano. Mano is the refuge of the 5 sense faculties. And it is Mano that is able to take all the 5 sense objects. So talking about the 5 senses, the 5 senses can actually take only objects in the present moment. You can only see something with your eyes if that object is right in front of you. What you saw last night in a video, in a YouTube or in TV, and you come here now and your device is not open, you can't see what you saw last night with your eyes, can you? You can't. So it's the same for the other 4 senses. You can only hear, smell, taste, and feel with the body whatever is in the present moment, right here, right now. But the mind is different. Although each of the 5 senses can only know their specific sense objects, Mano can know all the 5 sense objects and beyond. Mano can also know, for example, concepts, ideas, and even Nibbana. So even though the movie you saw last night is not open in a device now, your mind can still think about it immediately. Okay? Recall it, correct? And also when you're asleep at night, very obvious, when you're asleep at night, All your five senses are shut down. You're not aware of what's happening to them. And yet, you can have a nightmare, you can have a dream, doing all sorts of things, and you think that you are inside there, and you are real. Yeah, but it's all created by the mind. Now, you've heard of out-of-the-body experiences, and people nowadays get resuscitated after a heart attack in the hospital. Then their heart stops beating, they are supposed to be brain dead, but then later they come back to life. And then they say, I've had an out-of-the-body experience. And when the surgeons and the doctors were trying frantically to save the life of that person is up there looking at them, doing all these surgical procedures. And when he comes back, that person is able to describe in detail what the surgeons did. And the surgeons are baffled because a layman would not know anything about the procedure, and she can describe all those procedures in so detailed manner. So they have no scientific explanation for that, because they believe that the mind is in the brain, but if you are brain dead, there's no function. But still, this person is up there. The mind is able to observe all these things in the present moment, although the five senses are already out of action. Right? So that's the ability of the mind. Some people have this natural gift of being able to foresee the future. They can have premonitions of what could happen in the future. It just appears in their mind. Now, this is actually the mind looking in the future. But for most people, when you talk about thinking about the future, you are not really seeing the future. You are making projections of what could or might happen in the future based on your past experiences. Correct or not? At one time I was watching a short BBC clip on the refugees, the Syrian refugees in Europe, in a camp. And you could see the parents are very worried because they are refugees, they got no job, and they have no idea how they are going to make a living. So they are very worried. But you see the children, they are all running all over the camp, playing them among themselves. They have no fear at all of the future. Why? Because they don't have the experience. The parents had the experience, and because of the experience, that influenced their mind to have fear about what could happen in the future. But because the children didn't have the experience, they don't need to fear, because they don't know. Right or not? Now we're talking about the rebirth process because Buddhists do not believe in a soul. So how do you explain from one birth to another birth? So instead of using the concept of a soul, we use the Viññāṇa. We say the vijnana, or the consciousness, is the one that continues from one existence to another. And this vijnana, when it's used in that sense, it's used in a very general sense. It refers to all the mental makeup of a sentient being. In rare cases, sometimes citta is also used in the same context to connect, but it's very rare. Mostly vijnana is used. Okay, so this is how it is used in the suttas, and if you look at this table again, you can see so many similarities between citta and mano. You cannot really make the difference, right? So perhaps it would be easier for us if we made use of the Abhidhamma model of the citta. Now, usually I don't regard the Abhidhamma as something very authentic, because modern scholars have already come to a consensus that the Abhidhamma was not the original words of the Buddha, although legend has it that he preached the Abhidhamma to his former mother, who came down from Tusita heaven to Tavatimsa to listen to the Buddha preaching the Abhidhamma, while the Buddha was sitting on Sakka Devaraja's throne. There is only a legendary account, but this has no support in any of the suttas, nor in the canonical Abhidhamma. The Abhidhamma is now believed to have developed after the Buddha passed away, and maybe even during the Buddha's time, based on the Buddha's teachings found mostly in the Samyutta Nikaya, the connected discourses to the Buddha, and some in the Anguttara Nikaya, or numerical discourses of the Buddha. Initially, I believe that the Abhidhamma was the outcome of the very profound meditative experiences of the Theras at the time. And they tried to systematize the teachings of the Buddha, because the Buddha would teach according to the temperaments and inclinations and spiritual maturity of the people he was talking to. So sometimes you will say one thing to a group of people, you will say something else to somebody else, and so it seems very confusing. The whole purpose of the Abhidhamma was to try to systematize this and then to analyze things into minute details in order to show you that everything is anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanent, suffering, and not self, particularly not self. That is this whole enterprise. Just to break down everything so that you can see that everything is anicca, dukkha, anatta, then you can be liberated. Yeah, so people who like to see things in detail, people who have a more detailed temperament, Abhidhamma could be good for them. However, later, after the development of the Abhidhamma through the years, it became more and more intellectual and more theoretical. So usually I don't really fall back on the Abhidhamma, but sometimes it's very useful to understand things more clearly. So let's look at the Abhidhamma model of the Citta. The Abhidhamma is only an approximate model of reality. It's not the actual model. It's, you could say, a very, very rough model of reality in order for us to understand anicca, dukkha, and anatta clearer so that we can be liberated. That's all. The Abhidhamma is not geared, is not designed to answer every question about reality. It is just a simplified model of reality, good enough for you to understand and practice and get out of samsara. That's all, full stop. Yeah. The Abhidhamma will not attempt to answer questions about quantum theory, about information technology, and so forth. No, it's not its purpose. So it is a mistake to try to make use of the Abhidhamma to explain everything in reality. Yeah, that's not its purpose. So from the Abhidhamma point of view, like some of you pointed out, Citta here refers to the four aggregates, to Viññāṇa or consciousness and the three mental aggregates. Now I have come up with a modern analogy to make it easier for you to understand this concept of Citta. Imagine that we have a glass of clear distilled water. You know, distilled water is something which is really insipid and sterile, nothing inside there, no elements, no minerals, nothing. So this is equivalent to Viññāṇa. Because we saw this now, Viññāṇa is pure. Viññāṇa need not have to be developed or purified because it wasn't defiled in the first place. So you could say that Viññāṇa is like pure distilled water in that glass of water. Then imagine that we have these colored droplets of dye, and they represent the three mental aggregates of Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, feelings, perception, and volitional formations. And supposing you put them all into the glass of clear water, what will it have? It will come out with infinite number of colored glasses of water, correct? And the colors will all be different according to the proportion of the dyes. Some are darker, some are lighter, some are murky, some are clear. So it depends on a combination of this Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara. It's just like music. Music, there's only 7 notes, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But then you can come up with an infinite variety of melodies. So it's the same. You get it? So, for the Abhidhammikas, the Citta can be represented by every glass here. So a Citta comprises Viññāṇa or consciousness plus the three aggregates of Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara. Sometimes without Sankhara. So this whole thing is called a Citta. So when you talk about Viññāṇa, for example, you talk about Kaya Viññāṇa, body consciousness, yeah, it always arises together with these others, yeah, with Vedana, Sanya, and Sankhara. It cannot arise by itself independently. They must always be there. So that's why in nature, there's no distilled water. Distilled water is an artificial creation. So when you talk about Viññāṇa, it is just pure consciousness. You have to be very careful when you talk to Burmese monks because sometimes they translate Citta as mind, sometimes they translate it as consciousness. So when they say everything has to be known through the mind, they don't really mean only the sixth sense door, because the Abhidhammic notion or concept of Citta means Viññāṇa or consciousness plus 3 mental aggregates. So, the Viññāṇa could come from any of the 6 senses, not just the 6th sense. In English, when we use the word mind, we refer only to the 6th sense. We don't refer to the 5 senses. Right? But in Abhidhamma, Citta refers to any consciousness that any of the 6 sense stores, which are combined with any of the other 3 aggregates. So that is called a Citta. So when you see something with your eyes, that is also a Citta. It's Chakku Viññāṇa or eye consciousness plus feelings plus perception. Let's look at the 5 aggregates of a sentient being more closely. We have Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Viññāṇa. Rupa is simple. Rupa here refers to the physical body. Vedana refers to feelings. Now the word feelings here, when it is used in Pali, is something very rudimentary. Either it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. It's not like the English word feelings, which sometimes is associated with perception and with physical sensations and so forth. No. In the Pali usage of the word Vedana, feelings is a very rudimentary feeling of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. That's all. Sanya is often translated as perception. It is best understood or easier to understand as spontaneous memory. Just now when you were practicing open awareness, when you open up your awareness to the 5 senses, you notice that although I ask you to be aware or anchor your mind to the 5 senses, sometimes memories just pop up, right? Memories just pop out of the blue. You didn't purposely arouse those memories, they just pop up. So that is spontaneous memory, that is sanya. You have no control over the memories that arise in the course of a meditation or in your daily life. So sometimes you may be able to forgive, but you cannot forget. Because memory is not easy to erase. Now, if it is something that has been experienced before, then this memory or this recognition arises. Recognition means recognizing. It means you have cognized it before in the past, and now you are recognizing it, which you recognize it as something that has been experienced before. But it is something brand new, never experienced before, first time ever. Okay? Then the job of sanya is to register.
If somebody gives you something to eat, and you taste it, and you remember that you have tasted something like this before, this is spontaneous memory. But if it is something which you have never tasted, never seen before, then the mind will automatically identify it. So the next time when you encounter a similar item, then automatically the perception will come. Right? So this identification is also not intentional. It is spontaneous identification. The other one is spontaneous memory.
Recognizing
what you had seen before.
So sanya has 2 functions. One is to recognize something which has already been experienced. And if something brand new, then what it will do is to identify or register. So that next time you will be able to recognize. Very common translation of sanya is perception. Again, the English word perception has got very wide connotations, and it encompasses more things than just this simple recognition and identification. So be careful. When you see the word perception, you must limit it to these 2 narrow meanings and not beyond that.
If you form a new perception of somebody based on what people tell you, for example, if you are a leader of a community, you are bound to get a lot of complaints from different people. People tend to come to complain to you about their colleagues or their staff or whatever. And then, although you try to be very objective, but because this person has really given you a bad impression of someone he or she is referring to, next time you meet that person, automatically your mind will be colored. Correct or not? You have to be very, very careful not to jump to conclusions. Keep an open mind, put it at the back of your mind, and then relate with that person and see how the person actually is, not based on somebody else's complaint, because that is that person's experience and his perception. So that is a different sort of thing. That is something willful. This is something spontaneous.
There's no volition involved. There is this difference between spontaneous memory and deliberate memory. If you notice something and spontaneously you identify what it is, that is sanya. But if, for example, you were in a hurry to get to this venue this morning, and when you came here, you reached into your pockets and you found that your keys are not there. Alright? And then suddenly you ask yourself, okay, where did I put my keys? When was the last time I used them? Then that is trying to make use of deliberate memory to recall something. That is not sanya. That is something that involves intention, wanting to recollect something. Of course, that recollection also would also need to depend on the sanya that was happening automatically at that time. So you're trying to recall the sanya, or where you put those keys.
Sankhara here refers to volitional or intentional constructions of the mind. Sankhara is used in various contexts in the Pali Canon. Sometimes it is used to refer to all conditioned phenomena. But in the case of the five aggregates, Sankhara here refers only to volitional constructions of the mind. Something which is volitional or intentional.
Just now, I asked you to fix your eyeballs in a single direction. Yeah? But did you see that sometimes you're very curious, something is moving at the side, at the corner of your eyes, and you turn to see? You see, Actually, there is an intention involved, isn't it? I asked you to fix your direction, you fix your eyeballs in a single direction, and yet there's something that catches your attention at the corner of your eyes. There's an intention to see, and out of curiosity, you turn to see. And then you realize it's too late. But they say cannot turn already. Too late. Because you didn't catch the intention. So that is something intentional, and that is sankhara. But memories are not intentional, right? You just pop up. And after the memories pop up, and then if it's something unpleasant, you push it away. That's intention. If it's something which a pleasant memory, you want to continue and have pleasant memories, enjoy all the nice feelings of the past, then that's intentional. So that becomes sankhara. When it first arises, no, nothing. It's the same with feelings. When feelings arise, they arise by themselves. It's after the feelings has arisen, then you react to it, and that is your intention. Next one is viññāṇa. Viññāṇa is consciousness. Consciousness here, as part of the five aggregates, can be classified into 6 different types of consciousness, right? Eye, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind consciousness. Now, consciousness has a very, very rudimentary function. Its function is just to be conscious of something, be aware of something. That's all. The eye is just conscious of colors. The ears are just conscious of sounds. The body is just conscious of sensations. During your younger days, maybe when you attended youth camps, they used to play one game. They would enlarge an object maybe 100 times or a few hundred times, like the pinhead or something. You enlarge it so many times and then ask you to identify what it is. You wouldn't know what it is, right? So they would enlarge the skin. When you enlarge the skin 100 times, you will be surprised that it looks like a surface of a moon, full of potholes and very rough. You wouldn't know that it's skin. But then when you look at it at its lower magnification, at a normal magnification, then you recognize its skin. Alright? So the bare awareness, the bare consciousness of things, that is viññāṇa. What is it that differentiates what type of sound it is, what sort of colors, This is not the job of consciousness. That is the job of sanya. Perception is the one. For example, now I'm speaking to you in a language you understand. Yeah, you think that everything is simultaneous. The moment I say something, you already understand what I say. ဒါပေမဲ့ဦးဇင်းဗမာစကားပြောနေတယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီကတကဘာများဘာနားလည်ကြတယ်လဲ What is this? Sound only, right? So this is only sound. After you hear, then the mind would interpret it and then construct it into some concept that you can understand. So it works so fast, you think that it's simultaneous. It's not. So consciousness just hears sound. Even the mind only knows an object. But what other things happen inside there is there are feelings involved, there's perception involved, and there are volitions involved. These are separate departments. It's just like when you work in a company, in a corporation, and a corporation or a company has got different departments. Each department has got its own job to do. Correct? But all of them will work together so that the company can function successfully. So it's the same thing. That's what the citta is. The citta comprises all these things, and they must work together for the citta to function. You see, in this classification of a sentient being, according to these 5 aggregates, we only have 4 mental aggregates, right? We have Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Viññāṇa. Now, we know Vedana is very rudimentary feeling. Sanya, we already told you, is spontaneous memory or is registration or identification of something new. And Viññāṇa is just pure consciousness. So, all the other mental states that don't fall into these 3 are all grouped under Sankhara. So, things like intention, mindfulness, concentration, greed, hatred, delusion, all come under this. Or non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. Yeah, they all come under Sankhara. It is a blanket term for everything else except Vedana, Sanya, and Viññāṇa. So when you look at these 5 aggregates, you see that actually 4 of them are all resultants. The physical body that you have is a result of past karma. When I say past karma, I'm not talking just about past life karma. The body that you have right now is a product of whatever actions that you did in the past life as well as in this present life. Prior to this very moment, anything else you did, even what you ate this morning, is making your body what it is now. So your body is actually a product of the past, or past karma, past action. Vedana, you got no choice over feelings. Because you have a body, you sit for some time, you feel uncomfortable. Then you move a bit, you feel comfortable. After some time, you feel uncomfortable again. You cannot run away from that. You got no choice. You cannot say, hey, wait, I finished meditation first. Don't be uncomfortable yet. You got no choice. Sanya, also you got no choice. Memory just pop up. For example, you haven't seen a friend, a childhood friend for 30 years, 20 years. Then you bump into him or her. The first thing you bump into him or her, and if you recognize her or him, your first impression will be of the last experience you had with him or her. If it was a nasty experience, then immediately you meet him or her again, that feeling will arise in you. Correct or not? You got no choice. That person may have changed completely, but still your impression that the person is based on your past experience. This one is something you have no choice. But you have a choice. After you realize that the impression has arisen, then you can make use of your wisdom not to trust your past impressions. Things have changed. He or she might now be an angel. How do you know? You wouldn't know. Viññāṇa also, you got no control over Viññāṇa. As long as your senses, your physical organs are in good order, for example, your ears are in good order. If there's a loud sound, can you help but not hear? You got no choice, you have to hear. If your nose is in good order, somebody comes into the room with durian, you got no choice. You got to smell it even if you don't like durian. Correct, huh? And the moment you smell it, you start to salivate. That also you got no choice. That is a body due to past experience. So all these rupa, vedana, sanya, viññāṇa, these are resultants. You cannot control them, you cannot guard them. What can you do? Only sankhara, volition. This is the one that you have to take care of. The other four, you got no choice. Once you have these 5 aggregates, you are born, you have to live with them. It's how you react to them that will constitute karma.
The Buddha said in the Sutta that all the 6 senses are past karma, old karma. Which means to say, whatever you experience through your 6 senses, particularly your 5 senses, and let's talk about 5 senses first. Whatever you experience through the 5 senses are products of your past. You got no control.
Give you an example. I go walking barefoot, and once in a blue moon, I was stepped on a pebble, very painful. But there are millions of pebbles that I've already stepped on, but none of them are painful because they didn't hit me on the right spot. The sun hit me on the right spot and it was very painful. So this is one. It's a resultant. I got no choice. It's a resultant of my bad past karma. So whenever you have any painful feeling, that's the result of bad past karma. You got no choice.
But how the mind reacts to what is perceived as the senses, that is new karma. So you are creating new karma by reacting to it. If you react to it in an unwholesome, negative way, then you are creating unwholesome karma. If you respond to it in a positive, wholesome way, then it is positive karma. Okay? So that is the present karma. The rest are all products of past conditioning.
I told you just now that the citta here refers to all the 6 senses, not just the 6th sense. Now, let's look at each of these 6 senses. For the 4 senses, eyes, ears, nose, and the tongue. You see, what arises is you have consciousness, which is common to all of them. That is a glass of pure distilled water, right? That is the solvent. Then you have the solutes. You have these droplets of dye representing feeling and perception. So for these 4 senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, and tasting, you always have neutral feeling. There can be sanya, there can be feeling, but there's no sankhara involved. Now, it may be kind of difficult for you to understand this. When you sense anything with any of these 4 senses, there's no pleasant feeling. It's all neutral. It's only the mind that makes it pleasant or unpleasant. If you like it, then you create this pleasant feeling. If you dislike it, you create this unpleasant feeling. But for the body, it's different. For the body, it's either pleasant or painful. Which means to say, when you sit down, you're either comfortable or uncomfortable. If you're neutral, it means you're comfortable. Right? In my younger days, I used to think that everything is linear. One thing must happen before the other. But now, my view is that the 5 sense consciousness can arise simultaneously. And many of them, not just one. For example, in the body, the mind may not be aware of it, but the body is conscious of many things happening within itself. Now, if your mind is focusing on what I'm trying to say right now, sometimes you lose touch of the body. You don't even know that you're seated there. You don't feel any pain, any coldness, unless it becomes very intense, very obvious. Then that attracts your attention. But there's intention involved in your body. For example, when you eat something, it goes into your mouth. The moment it goes into your mouth, the body will be able to identify what it is. Is it a carbohydrate? Is it protein? Or is it glucose or whatever? The moment the body recognizes what it is, then the body will instruct the glands to produce the required enzymes. Correct or not? In order to digest the food that you take in. And this involves recognition and sanya. Right? And it involves also volition, because the body, once it recognizes what it is, then it will instruct the glands to produce something. Even more obvious is bacteria. When bacteria gets into your body, the body will be able to recognize, oh, this guy came in before. All right? And then the immune system will be instructed to produce that particular antibody that has worked before in the past. In the past, this sort of bacteria came in before, and the body produced this antibody and is able to kill all of them and return the body to good health. Nowadays, scientists say that there is cellular memory. Every cell has got memory, which means to say every cell has got consciousness, because memory is a mental faculty. It's not something physical. So all this happens in the body without your mind knowing a single thing. Actually, the body is more intelligent than you. If your mind tries to control the body, you'll go crazy. So many things happening all at once. The body is coordinating all these senses, your organs, your lungs, your heart, your kidneys, your liver, your pancreas, everything is being coordinated by the body without your mind's any knowledge at all. But all this has intention involved. And even more amazing is this phenomena that happens to yogis. When yogis sit and meditate, and after some time they feel they are very relaxed and calm, then what will happen is that the body may start to sway, right? Sway in some ways. Some people sway very gently. Some people, they move very vigorously and very violently. If you are not knowledgeable enough, you might think that you are possessed sometimes because it becomes so violent. But I'm not saying that this doesn't happen. Sometimes it can happen also, really because of some spirit possession. Sometimes also because of some psychiatric problems. But most times for people who don't have psychiatric problems and they are not possessed by spirits, these things happen in meditation because the chi in the body is trying to balance itself. If your meditation teacher does not believe in Qi Gong, does not believe in Qi therapy or Qi philosophy, he will ask you to stay absolutely still. Control your body, don't move. When you meditate, you must sit as still as a rock. Yeah, the mind can override the intention of the body. Can. But if you meditate under a teacher who believes in, understands or practices Qigong, then he will say, move. Allow the body to move, but be aware. Now, sometimes the body can move in such ways that ordinarily your mind will never be able to do. The body can slant and tilt in such a way that normally you will go out of balance, but somehow you will not go out of balance when it is the body's intelligence that is doing it. So according to Qi therapy, what is actually happening is that the Qi is intelligent. The Qi knows how to balance itself. According to Qigong, whatever ailments you have is because of the Qi not flowing properly. The Qi has been blocked in some way. Now, if you want to unblock the Qi, you can do various things. You go acupuncturist, he can poke you and you can get released in some way. You can see a Qigong master, he can use his Qi to heal you. And there's some types of Qigong which is called Yan Shen Gong, for example. The Qigong master will activate your Qi and then you do your own thing. You go to these Yan Shen Gong sessions, you see everybody doing his own thing. Some will be moving in certain ways, some will be lying on the floor, cycling in the air. Some bizarre things you think is happening. But actually, that's because each person has got his own particular blockages. And the Qi is able to know how to unblock them. And the Qi can only do that when the mind becomes relaxed. Body and mind becomes relaxed. And if you're really a good meditator, your body and mind becomes relaxed, then this will happen. So if you allow the body to move, but be aware of it, then you're killing two birds with one stone without breaking your precept, without breaking the first precept. You are practicing mindfulness as well as healing your body. Because after that session, you'll feel really good. Because you have given the chance for the Qi to balance itself, to unblock its blockages. So that is the intelligence of the Qi, intelligence of the body, the sankhara, the intentional volition of the body. Now this does not constitute karma. Right? It's only the intention that arises in the mind that causes karma. There's no intention for the 4 senses, but there's intentions mostly for the body. When body consciousness arises, most of the times it will arise with sankhara, with volition. Sometimes it doesn't. Now, I call this a modified Abhidhamma model because according to the Abhidhamma, there is intention happening for all cittas, irrespective of whatever of the 6 senses. Every citta has got intention. But I don't agree because I feel that the 4 senses don't have intention involved. It's a resultant of causes and conditions. How is citta related to Mano? Let's look back at the passage here. When the mind is unprotected, bodily action, verbal action, and mental action are unprotected. And then you look at the last excerpt in your appendix. It says that intention here is called kamma. The Buddha refers to kamma as intention. So, when you look at these cittas of the 6 senses, when the Buddha says, guard your citta, protect your citta, in order to die a good death, which of the cittas are you guarding? Are you guarding these 4? Alright. You don't need to guard these 4 because there's no intention involved. And you don't need to guard this one as well because there's no intention involved. And even this one, even though there's intention involved in the body, it doesn't constitute karma. So you don't need to guard that. Anyway, you wouldn't know those intentions happening unless it's this chi that is moving. That one you can override it with your mind. And then, sometimes in the Mano Viññāṇa, when it arises, there's no intention involved. For example, memories. Memories, when they involve perceptions of people, then they arise spontaneously. There's no intention involved. It's only whether you follow them. If you follow them, you pursue them, then that becomes the intention. And that is what you need to guard. The reactions of the mind to what happens at the 6 senses. So, it is the citta with mind consciousness that must be guarded. Not the citta with the other sense consciousness. No need to guard. Because that one doesn't constitute karma, and also most of them don't have volition involved. So the answer in the context of AN 3.110, and you must understand this contextual definition, because the Buddha can use the same word with different meanings in different circumstances. And he can use different words with the same meaning in different circumstances. So you have to be very contextual. You cannot just make a blanket definition. Whenever you see the word citta, it means this. Nope. This is only for this particular sutta. Alright? In this particular sutta, when the Buddha talks about guarding your mind, guarding the citta, it's talking about guarding the citta that is associated with the mind consciousness. When mind consciousness arises, then it will arise together with the other 3 mental aggregates, which are feelings, perception, and particularly volitional formations. That's what you need to guard. Yeah? And your feelings and perceptions will also affect the way you react. So you have to guard that as well. But this is only related to the mind, the 6th sense, not the other 5 senses. Okay, so now let's look at this classification of intention, because the Buddha says intention means kamma, correct? So, when you talk about this citta with mind consciousness, and it arises with intention. So this intention that arises in the mind consciousness, if it's going to be expressed physically to the body, then it's called kaya kamma, bodily kamma. If it's going to be expressed verbally, then it's called vaci kamma, or verbal kamma. But if it's not going to be expressed physically through your body or verbally through your speech, it's only in the mind, then it's called mano kamma. Correct? You see? So the word mano kamma here refers to the kamma, the intention that is happening in the mind. That will be expressed only in the mind, but not through speech or action. Right? But even for bodily action or verbal action, to constitute kamma, they all stem from the mind, from the sixth sense. The same intention, the same intention that arises together with the mind consciousness. But that intention, if it is going to manifest or express itself physically, then it's called kaya kamma. If it's going to be expressed verbally through speech, then it's called vaci kamma, verbal kamma. But if it's not going to be expressed verbally or physically, then it's called mental kamma. It only appears in the mind. Alright? Give you one good example. Supposing you fell in love with somebody else's spouse. Now, you know the third precept, right? But then, this mind has this very strong attachment, thinking of various ways of seducing that person. Thinking only, haven't written any love letters yet. That is mano kamma. If he starts to write love letters, then it becomes kaya kamma. If you start to talk to her over the phone and say, I love you, darling, then that's verbal kamma. You get it? So actually everything stems from the mind. The bodily kamma does not refer to the sankhara or the intention of the body. It refers to the intention that arose from the mind, that is expressed in a physical way. Okay, so in the context of AN 3.110, we see that citta here refers to mano viññāṇa, or mind consciousness, that arises together with all the three aggregates, particularly intentional sankhara or intentional formations. But mano here is just an adjective of intention, specifying intention related to mental action, as opposed to that of bodily or verbal action. Is it clear? If it's not clear, you can ask questions. Any questions? Either it's abundantly clear or it's so confusing you don't know what to ask.